And welcome aboard, everyone. Steve Malzberg here, and joining me right now on this day after the 4th of July is the editor-at-large of the Weekly Standard, Bill Kristol. Hello, sir.
Hey, Steve. How are you? Happy 4th.
Happy 4th, happy 5th, as the case may be, whatever.
Right.
But once again, North Korea took an American holiday as an occasion to antagonize us and send a very vulgar message in the process. And of concern, of course, is the fact that we are being told we're seeing a new intercontinental ballistic missile launch for the first time, a new missile that we haven't seen before from the North Koreans. So what should we do?
I mean, it shouldn't be a big surprise. They've been working towards this, and they can continue to work now to getting a nuclear weapon small enough, to improving the missile and getting a nuclear weapon small enough for it. I was emailing with a couple of friends who are foreign policy experts this morning, and one of them said, I said, is there anything we can do about this? And they said, yeah, maybe, and we'll get back to that in a second. But he said, but look, if we let things go the way they're going, welcome to the world of the future. You know, every crackpot state with access to technology, God knows where they're getting this. They've gotten stuff from the past, from China, Pakistan, probably from Iran.
Right.
They do some of it on their own. You can't really keep the science within borders, obviously, with nuclear potential, and God knows where that ends up. So I think it really makes the case, honestly, for the foreign policy I've long believed in, a strong America willing to throw its weight around, stop this kind of thing from happening before it gets out of hand. Now, of course, it's a tough situation. People of both parties have kind of fallen down on this. No one wants to make some tough decisions. Understandably, it's risky to stop this, and then you end up letting it keep going. I think Trump's instincts, I'm not a big fan of Trump, as you may have noticed over the last few months, but I'd say his instinct on this is right in the sense of he sees that the policy of the past was a failure. He knows that it was wrong, something went wrong. This is kind of crazy to just let this go. He hoped he could sort of sweet-talk the Chinese into being very helpful. I think he now sees that's probably not happening. So now we're up against it. It's some tough decisions, and, that requires some real military and intelligence sophistication, obviously. But as I say, I sort of give Trump credit for seeing that this is a problem and you can't just go on the way we were.
All right, so, you mentioned the Chinese and Trump tweeting out that trade between North Korea and China has increased this year. So he said something to the effect of, we had to give it a try. So much for China working with us, but we had to give it a try. So let's put that aside. I mean, we keep hearing the military options are limited and not good, but you present a scenario, which I agree with wholeheartedly, and certainly it's not only your scenario, that push has just about come to shove here.
Yeah, I mean, look, military options are tough, but who knows what the cyber options are. If you really say, look, we are just not going to let North Korea move ahead on this, or we're going to sabotage, or we're going to disrupt their electric grid. Now, can they do things in response to that, just like they could in response to bombing? Sure, but, let's also make clear to them that their regime is finished. If they do stuff, I mean, I think we still have a lot of leverage over a country like North Korea, but you got to be willing to sort of say we're willing to run some risks. The South Koreans will get nervous, understandably, but I mean, I think that would be one way to go. Maybe more pressure on the Chinese could pressure them to do something. We've only really asked them nicely so far. We certainly haven't really threatened any retaliation in terms of trade. I'm not sure that would work, honestly, though. So I guess, I come back to sort of, we're a bigger and stronger country than North Korea, and nothing is without risk, but you just can't let it go ahead. That doesn't mean we have to have some massive showy bombing attack. There's a lot we can do probably covertly. Maybe we're doing a lot that we don't talk about, and let's hope so. But what would be more comforting if these things were blowing up on the launch pad instead of being launched 475 miles.
Absolutely. All right. So now on the other side, or, I don't know, but certainly it's a different topic anyway, whether or not they blend together. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Now it's not a sideline meeting. Now it's going to be a more formal meeting. And, of course, the media is obsessed with, will he bring up the election? I said, well, maybe he should tell him, hey, Vladimir, you could go take Crimea. And he could tell him, hey, Vladimir, you could get involved in Syria, and I'll draw a red line and won't do anything. And by the way, Vladimir, after my next election, I'll have all the leeway in the world. And then they said, oh, that was Barack Obama. And all they're obsessed about is he going to bring up the election, which Obama also knew about and didn't do anything until the very end when he kicked some diplomats out of the country. So what should it be like when Putin meets Trump, in your view?
Well, I was a critic of the Obama policies. They were ineffectual and a little bit of tough talk occasionally and then total collapse. And people really saw that. I was talking with a diplomat last week, just to divert for a minute, and he stressed to me how much people saw what happened in Syria with the Red Line. Then they saw that we didn't do anything serious about what is Ukraine. Then they saw we didn't do anything serious with the Chinese building those little islands in the South China Sea. And people learn lessons. It's not like, these regional things stay only in the region. And the diplomat I was talking to said you just can't underestimate how much each of these things contributed to a sense that we were hapless. Now, this diplomat is from Europe. He doesn't like Trump much. It's not his taste, really, and his style. And I think he's got legitimate concerns about Trump and NATO. But he said maybe Trump could shake that up at least. At least people could think that you can't just mess with the U.S. So I'm less concerned with what exactly he says to Putin and more with the general stance he takes. And I think he's got to make clear that aggression won't work and that, the trouble with Trump is he sort of likes the idea of him and Putin having a tough guy talk where they kind of agree on a lot of things and divide up the world or something. I don't know. He's got to resist that tendency. So I don't know how much this one meeting will matter. I'm like everyone else. I'll be watching it. But it does, it's funny, the first two topics we talked about here, North Korea and Russia, it really reminds me this is a strong country internally. I'm not too panicked about what Trump is going to do domestically. I'm not too enthused either. I think, frankly, it's the limits. There are limits both ways of how much good or bad he will do. The world is a dangerous place, though, and that's where an American president and his team kind of earned their keep. Obama didn't. Obama let things, the second term of Obama especially, was just a disaster. And I always say this when I criticize Trump, he inherited a very bad hand in foreign policy, and it's not obvious how you fix a lot of those things.
Yeah, and you won't be heartbroken if he doesn't mention the election and say, you better not do that again, which we know they've done it forever.
He should mention it, I think, because it was a real act of, unfriendly act to a country like ours. Even if they've done it a long time, no reason not to mention it. And the scale of it this time was somewhat different. So I'm for him mentioning it, but I agree with you that it's a little rich to see all these Obama veterans finger wagging at Trump ahead of time about how he has to mention it.
All right. Now, are you familiar with this? CNN is now, and they're trumpeting this all day long. This guy who put out that video with the Trump beating up on the CNN, head. They found the guy who did it. First they thought it was a 15-year-old boy. It's not.
Right.
And they're not revealing his name because CNN keeps saying because he promised us he won't do it anymore, and he apologized, and he won't post any racist tweets anymore. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's kind of blackmail. It's kind of, it's newsworthy to publish his name, but because we can make him better because he promised us we're not going to do it. I don't get that whole thing. Do you?
The whole debate seems to me to be ridiculous, honestly, on every side. Trump shouldn't have retweeted. It's not presidential. The guy himself has a very unpleasant, unseemly timeline, which, if that's the right word, which, he's anonymous, but no one is guaranteed anonymity once you start putting things out in the public sphere. These are not private emails. These are things he posted, right? So if people want to look into who someone is who's posting stuff, I don't have a big problem with that. I don't think it's terrible to reveal their name if there's a newsworthy element to it. On the other hand, I agree that last sentence in the CNN release is totally inappropriate, and then CNN patting itself on the back and posturing is, of course, nuts. So I'm told that sentence, the so-called blackmail sentence, we won't post his name. We'll only post his name if he keeps on doing things like this. That came not from the reporter, but from the top of CNN. They wanted to show they were tough, So everyone is behaving ridiculously at this point, I think. I don't have much sympathy for any of the players in this particular. And the idea that, I went on Twitter, I'm sure it was like you. I went on last night after the fireworks, which I was watching with kids and grandchildren and stuff. And then you see this is the main topic everyone's debating. You sort of think, what is going on in this country,
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's going on in this country. 60 shot, 8 dead over the July 4th weekend in Chicago. And you know what, Bill? No one talks about it. That's not news.
It is amazing. I think that's right. They're not frankly, people don't talk about it because the media and the political and media elites are obsessed with CNN and Trump and everything, and not with actual, kids being shot in inner city Chicago or the opioid crisis. I've been kind of going crazy about this, where more people are going to die of opioid abuse last year than died in the entire Vietnam War. But they're not people that elites tend to know, perhaps, and they live in sort of, West Virginia and Ohio and stuff. And so it's like getting very little serious attention in terms of law enforcement. There's treatment stuff that should be done, too. That's an issue where I think Trump, honestly, if he just said this is ridiculous and unacceptable, and I'm, going to throw a lot of money at it, and some of it will be for liberal things like treatment, and some of it will be for tough law enforcement and cracking down on the gangs that import this stuff, and cracking down on the drug companies where they've contributed to it, and the doctors. I mean, you could have it's really ridiculous to just sit around and take it like a fact of life that 80 or 100,000 people are going to die this year from opioid abuse.
And one more. What'd you think of Chris Christie's stunt on the beach?
Ridiculous. I mean, honestly, I guess he's not going to run for anything anymore, and he doesn't care. But it is one of those things that just. I mean, I don't care about Christie, and he's a lame duck governor, so who cares? And New Jersey will be a tough state for the Republican anyway in November. So, but I do think it probably helps the liberal. I mean, sort of like it'll just become Republican. This is the Republican attitude towards the common people. Shut down their beaches and, have a helicopter and go to your own little private public beach. I mean, I think it's not a bad meme for some of the Democrats probably. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I live in New Jersey, and that's unfortunate too.
What happened with him? He started out as such a promising governor.
He was wonderful, and I got to tell you, I mean, not to personalize it too much, but I had a wonderful relationship with him, and then after a couple of times of asking him questions like, what do you think of the prospects of a ground zero mosque, which he wouldn't answer. Why'd you appoint a judge to the bench who happens to be Muslim, who once said Islam has nothing to do with terrorism, don't mention them in the same breath. He didn't like the questions, he wouldn't come on anymore, he wouldn't answer them. He just went far to the left on many issues. I don't think he's a true conservative, and and the people of New Jersey just didn't. His style wore on them, I think, Bill. The big mouth, loud mouth, in your face, shouting constantly. Yeah,
thin skin too.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, great to talk to you, my friend. Speak to you soon.
Be well, Steve.
Bill Kristol, ladies and gentlemen. Always glad to speak to Bill. All right, folks, until next time, I want you to make sure you stay informed. Newsmaxtv.com will tell you how to see everything. And, of course, the website, newsmax.com.